Kalkadosh Boker Or Daf Yomi Masechet Shevuot Daf Kaf Amud Aleph 28:1. We were talking about right now when we were speaking about Amar Abaye. Abaye comes and he says, "You remember we started the Mishnah. The Mishnah spoke about 2 Shevuot which became 4, 2 which are from Mifurash in the Torah, and then another 2 which were added on afterwards. Then afterwards the Gemara comes and it says, Amar Abaye leolam de'achilna mashma. That means b'derech klal. When I say she'ochal, it means that I'm going to be mekabel al atzmi, that I'm going to eat. When I say the words she'ochal, but he still says there's no question. Here, somebody's putting pressure on me. In the other place, nobody's putting pressure on me. Meaning, if you're putting on pressure on me to eat, so therefore, if I'm going to make this Shevuah, it means that I'm not going to eat from you. But if nobody's putting on pressure, and I just say she'ochal, it means that I'm not going to eat at all. That's what it says over here. Matniti meshem esarvimo lechol, v'abraita mesarvimo lechol. V'kamar lo achilna lo achilna. So when he says lo achilna lo achilna, the kimishtaba. So when he swears, it means Shevuah she'ochal. It means that he does not want to eat from you. Ravashi comes and he's going to say another answer. Ravashi comes and he says, Tani Shevuah she'i ochal lecha. Yeah? Don't ask questions afterwards. Yeah? What does that mean? He comes and he says, we're talking about over here a Shevuah that he comes and he says, she'i ochal lecha, I'm not going to eat from you. So the fact that he added in the word she'i ochal lecha, right? He didn't just say Shevuah she'ochal. He says she'i ochal lecha, I'm not going to eat from you. So therefore, obviously, it means that I'm not going to eat from nothing from you. So says the Gemara, so what's the chidush? It's obvious. So he went and he said, I would have thought say lishan ditkalele, right? I would have said it's a lashon that's sam she'ochal, right? Kamash malan, no, it's bechavana. This is where we actually got to yesterday, which was the 2 dots. So this is actually a chazara of what we learned yesterday. Okay? Says the 2 dots. Tanu Rabbanam, we learned in a Braita. Right? We learned the concept of mifta and the Shevuah. What does that mean exactly? If a person comes and he says, mifta kikar zo alai. So it's ki'ilu, he's saying Shevuah that I'm not going to eat this kikar. Because he said mifta. Isar, when he uses the word isar kikar zo alai, that's also Shevuah. Meaning here we're learning that there's other lishonot of Shevuah without using the terminology Shevuah. Shevuah is an oath, correct? But the swear, but it's not only just Shevuah, it's Miftah, it's Isar, those are also. He says, Isur Isar. What is the Isur and the Lashon of Isar? So he says, what happens if a person says, Isar kikar zo alai? Imata omer Isar Shevuah chayav, v'im lav patur. Meaning, if you're going to come and you're going to say Isar, Isar is the Lashon of Shevuah. Meaning, if I put translate, synonyms, Isar, zotomeret Shevuah. So if I'm going to put Isar in Shevuah, you're going to be chayav. If you're not going to put it, you're going to be patur. Says the Gemara, Imata omer Isar Shevuah. If you're going to tell me now that Isar is Shevuah, veha marta, I thought you told me that Isar is a Shevuah. So what are you telling me now that Isar is a Lashon of Shevuah? Right? What do you mean it's keilu, you're mistapek bezeh? Right? You said mefurash. Isar is a Shevuah, not a safek. Do you have a doubt that it's a synonym? Or is it vadai that it's a synonym? Right? Remember, you have Shevuah. Shevuah is lav davka Shevuah. Shevuah could be Shevuah, it could be miftah, or it could be Isar. Right? Obviously, we're talking about lashonot of Hebrew, so it's, but basically in English also, it could be, I'm sure there's an oath, there's a swear, there's a promise, you understand? So the question is, what are these different lashonot? So Amar Abaye comes and he says, Hachi kamar, this is what it means to say. Miftah is a lashon Shevuah mamash. Meaning if a person comes and he says, Miftah kikar ze alai, it means that he's making a Shevuah that he's not going to eat from this bread. Okay? It's a Miftah. Miftah is mamash a Shevuah. Isar, right? Isar is mitpis b'Shevuah, is the lashon of atfasat Shevuah, which means when a person says Isar kikar ze alai, it's ki'ilu that somebody already made a Shevuah on another kikar, and then he's coming and saying, this is the same thing. Zotomeret, you already made a Shevuah on something else. You use Shevuah on the something else. And now you're saying Isar, meaning it's like Zegamze, Zenitpasalze. It's also this. Meaning I already made a Shevuah on A. And now I say Isar zo, it's Selam Shos. B also, not A also. A already made a Shevuah. I made a Shevuah on A. That's a real Shevuah. When I say the usage of the word isar, gambi ze kamo a. So the minute also the second one is going to be like the first one. Isur isar. What happens now when I say isur isar? One more time. Abai is trying to explain was we had a stira. It was mashma isar is a shavua, and then mashma isar is a safek shavua. So we already explained. Mifta ze 100% shavua. Mifta ze oto davar kemo shavua. The same thing. Isar is lashon hatfasa achare shavua. So to minute you made a regular vow, and now you say vechen isar. So to minute this is a sur like the other one. So it's a hatpasa. What about the lashon isur isar? I use the terminology isur isar. So imata omer, if you're going to tell me mitpas b'shvua, kemotzi shvua mipiv dami, chayav. If you're going to tell me the mitpas b'shvua, the mitpas means that the B is like A, and that's like a shvua. So then it's like you made a shvua. You're going to be chayav a korban, obviously. And if you did it purposely, you're going to be chayav lakut. V'im lav, but if you're not going to tell me that it's mamash like a shvua, you're going to be patur. So fine. So it all depends. It all meaning isur isar depends what is the halacha to do with isar. Is isar mamash shavua or not? So he says umimai de mifta shavua. Says the Gemara, how do you know this? Where is it written that the terminology of mifta is a shavua? You know, like there's terms. You know, at the back of a document or things like that. Many times there's going to be, you know, this term is going to refer to a and this is so. This is a terminology mifta. Where is it written that mifta means equals shivua? So he says, dichtiv, it says in the pasuk, o nefesh kiti shava levate bisfatayim. A nefesh that is going to swear, levate bisfatayim, bitui sfatayim. Levate bisfatayim means to articulate. I think it's articulate, right, with your lips, to move your lips. So therefore, the fact that it says, o nefesh kiti shava levate bisfatayim, mifta, which comes from levate, right, mifta, is referring to a shivua. That's what's written in the Torah. Isar nami, says the Gemara, Isar also is the same thing. Tichtiv, kol neder vechol shevuat Isar. It says in the Torah, any neder or any shevuat Isar. So therefore, Isar is also a neder. So therefore, according to this, also doing the same thing. Meaning, you're trying to make a differentiation between Mifta and Isar. There's otto davar. The both of them are written in the Torah. So why are you saying, no, Mifta is for sure a shivua? Isar, אני לא בטוח. אולי זה הדפסה, אולי זה... שתיהם נתן מפורש בתורה. מה? So says the Gemara, Ela Barather, Mimai di Isar, right? He says, mitpas b'shvuahu. How do we know that Isar, right? Yes, all these things we're going to say, right? Yeah, Veisarei, Kunamei, all these things, right? So he says, the Isar Shalom. How do we know that Isar is mitpas b'shvuahu? Tichtiv, as it says in Pasuk, V'im bet Ishah nadara, O asera Isar al nafsha b'shvuah. She prohibited upon herself with a shivua. So he says, V'shama Isha v'chrisha v'kam kodoneh v'chol Isar asher salam yakum. So when it says asera Isar b'shvuah, it's mashma that she was oseret something through another shivua, meaning hatpasa. So therefore, first came the shivua, and then came the Isar, meaning from the Torah, that later on the Torah is going to say, V'imbet Isha nadara, O asera Isar nafsha b'shvuah, v'kamu kol nedareha, v'chol Isar asher asera nafsha yakum. From that part of the pasuk, we're learning that first has to come a shivua, and then has to come the what? The Isar, which is again the concept of what we said before in Abai, that Isar is lashon hatpasa. Hatpasa means it needs pass after something else. Meaning you already made a shivua, and now you're going to do it. So ask the Gemara, oto davar then mifta. Mifta nami aktiv, it's written, lechol asher yivate adam b'shvua. Meaning, if you're already going to ask that question on Isar, you're going to ask the exact same question on mifta. You made it clear that mifta was shivua, and Isar was not. It's hatpasa. It's like ilu, it's nitpas achare mashu acher. Meaning that you already made a shivua, and now you're doing it. He says it's incorrect. It's the exact same thing. What's the difference? Ela amar Abaye, but rather Abaye says, you're right. Mifta is lashon shivua from another pasuk. V'mayot tieh leish undarea alea. A woman gets married to a man, and she has an eder. O mifta sefatea asher asera nafsha, or mifta sefatea that she prohibited on herself. Now here it's barur when it says mifta sefateh asher asara nafsha. The kavanah is the yisur of a shevuah because the neder was brought down in the beginning, and then the shevuah was not mentioned. So therefore, it didn't say mifta sefateh by the lashon of shevuah. So therefore, he says b'may asara alatzma. How did she prohibit it to herself? Ela mama b'mifta, meaning the mifta sefateha, right, was the actual shevuah itself. So therefore, from here, from this pasuk, we're learning that really be'emet mifta is 100% a shevuah. Okay, fine. Now we're going to another braita, another explanation of the braita. Rava comes and he says, "Leolam imlecha." Really, I'm going to tell you, mitpas v'shvuah, lav kimotzi shevuah mipiv dami. Really, be'emet lashon atpasa is not be'emet a shevuah. Meaning, when you're going to come and you're going to make an oath, and then you come and you say, and also this, which is atpasa, you atamatpis, right? You're saying that this is also like this, right? So he comes and he says, it's not considered mamash a shevuah. V'hachi kamar. This is what it means to say. Mifta is a lashon shevuah. When a person comes and he says mifta kikar zo alai, it's mamash a shevuah. Isar is also a shevuah. When you say isar, 100% a shevuah. Yeah, he says isure de isar, the isur of the word isar that I said is a shevuah, is talui in what you're saying. He says hetilo akatuv ben neder leshevuah. If the pasuk came and he wrote the isar between the neder and the shevuah, and therefore it depends on what he's doing. So it's b'lashon neder. Neder, right? He says, so too it's going to be a neder. B'lashon shevuah, meaning like this. When you come and you use the word mifta equals shevuah. When you use the terminology isar, it depends on context. It could be both. It could be either be a neder or it could be a shevuah. Neder and shevuah is not the same thing, right? There's going to be differences. We're going to learn later on, right? But it's not the same thing. So you've got a neder, and then you've got a shevuah. The word isar could be used for both, but it depends what you're speaking about. So if it's going to be in the context of a neder, it's a neder. It's going to be in context of shevuah, it's going to be a shevuah. But it's not me'achuz only a shevuah, meaning mifta, 100% shevuah. Isar depends on the context, right? So says the Gemara, Hechal netilo, where did the pasuk put isar between the neder and shevuah? It says vimbet isha nadara or asera asara nafsha bishvuah. Right there, it says that you're doing it right. That basically the isur is going to be halal dibur, whether through neder or shevuah, is called an isar. So here he's saying in nadara, which is b'lashon neder, or asrad atzma et isar lashon shevuah. So that's what there's going to become a difference, right, between them, right? If you look in the footnote, you have the difference between neder and shevuah. We're going to learn it later on, but he says that there's going to be a difference between cheftza and gavra, right? The neder is on the cheftza, right? The shevuah is on the gavra. Meaning when I'm going to make a neder on this drink, that's usually going to be a neder. If it's going to be on me, then I'm not going to eat something or I'm not going to do something that's called a shevuah. Okay, but there's other differences as well. Look over there in the footnote. There's a lot of what to read. The azdu letamayu, right? And they both go according to the reasoning, meaning Abai and Rava both go according to the reasoning. The Itmar was stated, Hamatpis b'shvuah. If somebody's going to be matpis b'shvuah, which means he came and he vowed that he's not going to eat a certain bread, and then he made another vow on something else, and he said, this is going to be the same thing. Abai says, it's like he said a shevuah. Rav says, no, it's not like you took it out of your mouth like a shevuah. So we're going to ask now on Rava. Rava just said that if you did harezo kezo, it's not a shevuah, correct? Meaning, somebody, you remember we spoke about this many times in Mishnayot, that somebody, a Nazir is passing by, and a guy comes and he says, I'm like him. You remember we spoke about these cases, the Mishnayot and everything. What does that mean? That means he also wants to become like a Nazir, the same thing. So here where it's saying, is it considered a shevuah or not considered a shevuah? Rava says no. Abaye says yes. We're going to ask a question now according to Rava. Rava just said it's not considered a shevuah. Meitvei, we're going to ask the following question. What is the yisar in the Torah? What does that mean right now? Imagine a person comes and he says that he's not going to eat meat or he's not going to drink wine today. Right? Now, when he says kiyom shemet bo aviv, just like the day that his father passed away, or kiyom shemet bo ploni, or kiyom shene'erag bo Gedalia ben Achikam, Tzom Gedalia, kiyom shera Yerushalayim chubana urban bayit, asur, it's going to be asur eating meat and drinking wine. Meaning, he says today it's going to be asur to him, just like the day that the father passes away. And we know that a navel is not allowed to eat meat or drink wine. Or, for example, the day that Mr. So-and-so died, or the day that Tom Gedalia, you're not allowed to eat at all, right? Or like the day of the Churban in Yerushalayim. Amar Shmuel, Shmuel says, Vehu shenaduru ba meoto hayom. Meaning this is going to be only in a case where he already accepted upon himself the neder, that the basar and the yain is going to be asur to him every year, just like Shemed Bo Aviv, or just like Meploni or all the other cases. So now he comes and he says it on another day. So therefore it's going to be chal, just on that day. Meaning like this. We know that a person is only on velut for 7 days a year. For 7 days when the person passed away, right, of the year. What happens if a person comes and he says, you know what? Today, in the middle of nowhere, right? Today is whatever and he comes and says, today is going to be a asur for him for drinking wine and eating meat, just like the day of that day. So now it's going to be chal. Now the question is, if already he's got this neder, right, on this day, and now he comes and he says, it's going to be prohibited today also, so it's going to be chal on that day. So he comes and he says like this, Bishlam al Abaye, I understand Abaye, mean the matpis beneder neder, matpis b'shvuah shvuah. What did Abaye tell you? Abaye told you that it all depends what you're doing. If you did a neder, it's a neder, shvuah shvuah, but it's always matpis. Meaning the word isar, right, is always going to come and it's going to be hatpasa. It's going to be nitpas on something else, right? Kafa mubet. Ela lefi Rava, but according to Rava that he holds that it's not like mamash that you made a shvuah. So kashya, it's a question. Why are you going to be over on lo yachel devaro? You didn't do anything. If according to Rava, when you come in your matpis, it's not mamash that you took out a shivua in your mouth. So therefore, well, what's the reason why here you're going to be chayav? What's the reason? What did you do? It's nothing. You didn't do anything. Yeah? So he says like this. Amar lecha Rava, Rava's going to answer you. Taritz ve'imahachi. I'm going to say like this. Right? Ezu yisar neder amur b'Torah. Which is a yisar neder which is written in the Torah? האומר הרי עלי שלא אוכל בשר שלו של יין כיום שמת בו אביו, כיום שנהרג בפלוני, ואמר שמואל, והוא שנדור בא מאותו היום. Right? So the exact right that we brought down before. What if a person comes and he says that he's going to accept upon himself that he's not going to eat meat or drink wine today, just like the day that his father passed away? Meaning, one more time, he's got the father passed away, it's a surba achila, yain, v'basar. Right? He's not allowed to eat meat and drink wine. He prohibited another day like that day. Yom acher, like that day. And now, exactly. So now what he wants to do is he wants to be in another day. So says, what's the reasoning though? Is it going to be asur? My tama. He says, the pasuk says, Ish ki yidor neder la Hashem. Why does it say yidor neder? Double language. Ish ki yidor la Hashem. Or ish ki nadar la Hashem. Why does it say ish ki yidor neder la Hashem? Why is it double language of yidor neder? So he comes and he says, Ad shi yidor bedavar nadur. It's being tole the neder in something which is already prohibited unto him, like a neder. So ish, exactly. That means the neder has to be on another neder. So the isar has to be on something beforehand. Okay.
3 days.
Yes, there's 3 dates. There's the Gemara. Kiyom shemet bo aviv, right? Shita. Obviously, we know that that's a neder, right? So therefore, what's going on? Obviously, then why did the Rabbi have to teach you anything? So he says. He says, no, I needed some Gedalia. He says, what? I would have thought to say, even if you didn't make a neder, anyway, it's asur. Some Gedalia, anyway, you're not allowed to eat. So for even without a neder, it's going to be asur. So when you did make the neder, it's nothing. So it's not considered a mepis beneder. Kamashmalan that it's still considered a mepis beneder. Meaning like this. We know that Tzom Gedalia is already a sur ba'achila. You remember we spoke about this once, and Shevuah chalal Shevuah, because you're already mushba ve'omed from our Sinai. So if you come and you made a neder about not fulfilling the Torah or things like that, it's not chal. Why is it not chal? Right? Because since you already have a Shevuah from Matan Torah that you have to accept the Torah, you cannot make a Shevuah keneged because you're already mushba ve'omed. You already have a Shevuah. Here, I would have had a havamina that since anyway you're not allowed to eat on Tzom Gedalia. So therefore, it's ki'ilu, it's not matpis at all. Why? Because anyway, you're not allowed to. So it's not matpis on another neder. You don't need to make a neder. Afilu bli neder asul lecha lechol. Right? So he says, Kamashmalan comes to teach you that it is going to be chal, even though the first one was like Tzom Gedalia. He comes and he says, because neder is chal on dvar mitzvah, right? That it is chal on dvar mitzvah. It cannot be chal on avera, because there you're mushma v'omed the opposite way, right? But it is chal on a mitzvah. You could make a neder on a mitzvah to strengthen, to do a mitzvah. Okay? The af Rabbi Yochanan savala hadrava. Even Rabbi Yochanan holds like this halacha Rava. The chiyati Ravin was when Ravin came, he said in the name of Yochanan, Mifta lo chalecha, isa lo chalecha, Shevuah. He says when a person comes and he says Mifta lo chalecha or isa lo chalecha, that is a Shevuah gemura. So here it's mashma the be'emet Abaye is cholek on this, and he says isa lo chalecha is not considered a Shevuah. We already said that it was, but fine. But this is the halacha of what Rabbi Yochanan is saying. The really be'emet Mifta or isar is a Shevuah gemura. So Kiyat Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael Bavel, he said the name of Yochanan, She'ochal v'shelo ochal. A person made a Shevuah she'ochal, and he was over on the Shevuah, and he did not eat. Or lo ochal, and he was again over on the Shevuah, and he ate. Sheker, right, and he was over on the Shevuah. This is called Shevuah Sheker. He swore falsely. And the warning comes from the pasuk lo tishavu b'shvi l'shaker, which means don't swear in my name to be mishaker, right? To make a Shevuah, a false Shevuah. Meaning, if you're going to swear that you're not going to eat, and then you're going to be over on the Shevuah and to eat, so the warning comes from this pasuk. Don't swear my name to how do you call it? To swear falsely. Okay? So he comes now and he says like this. He says, achalti v'shelo achalti. Right? If you say Shevuah that I ate and that I didn't eat, remember, this is on the past now. This was the shtaim shemarba. The arba, the other two, was these two in the past. Achalti v'shelo achalti. Right? That's called a Shevuat shav, in vain. When I come and I'm going to tell you I'm not going to eat something, or I am going to eat something, and then I go over it, I lied to you. Why did I lie to you? Because I told you I was going to do something, and I didn't do it. That's called the lie. When it says now, whether I ate or I didn't eat, right? For us in English, we call everything a lie. So I also lied. But no, the Torah is calling it Shevuat Shav. There's no purpose for it, right? It's not Sheker, it's Shav. Shav means that it's called Shevuat Shav. It's not a Shevuat Sheker, it's called Shevuat Shav. He says, Vazarate, the Azara is from here. The Azara says, Lo tisat Shem Hashem lokecha lashav, which means don't be motzi, the name of Hashem in a Shevuah for no reason. Here it's no reason, because since it has nothing to do with the future, it's something of the past. It's like, don't cry over spilled milk. It's something of the past. I don't care what happened in the past. It's something else. So he comes and he says, here when he swore, right, when he lied, when he swore, he was motzi Shem Shemayim levatala. Here you have to give him the warning from here. Kunamot. What about kunam? So this is what Mordechai said before that we mentioned this on Kal Nidre. Because we say Kal Nidre ve'sare ve'kuname. Right? The kunase. So we're going to speak about these things. Kunamot. What is kunamot? If a person is going to be over on neder shenadar, right? So he comes and he says, the Gemara is going to speak about that a neder is like a kunam also. Because derech hanodrim, they're going to be toledze in a korban. Like, for example, he says, kikar zo asurai like a korban. So that's going to be like a kunamot, kunam. Okay, in the Gemara, they used to call that a kunam. Whenever you were toledze in a korban, mean that you say that this is going to be prohibited to me like a korban. You're not allowed to eat from the korban. So therefore, whenever you depended upon a korban, it's called a kunam or kuname or kunamot. Okay, in plural. So it says over belo yachel devaro. So therefore, you're going to be over on lo yachel devaro, right? Which the pirush is shelo yechalel v'yaseh diburo chulin. Don't make your words mundane. Don't make them chulin, that it's nothing. So therefore, you have to be mekayem your words. Okay, fine. So says the Gemara, mate, we're going to ask the following question. Shav v'sheker echadhen. Selam shows b'diuk utovar. When you say it's a Shevuat Shav or Shevuat Sheker, it's the same thing. My lover, we're not talking about midishav l'shavar, af sheker nami l'shavar. So therefore, if Shav is on the past, Sheker is also on the past, right? So therefore, what are we talking about? Alma achalti v'shelo achalti. It's also Shevuat Sheker. It's not Shevuat Shav. So answers the Gemara, midi idia hakedita. He says, what are you talking about? Each one is to its own. What does it mean then when we say that Shevuat Shav and Sheker is one thing? They were both said in the same thing. Because it says, Lo taneh berecha et Shaker, and it says, Lo taneh berecha et Shav. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, also in Yitro and also V'tchanan, you know, like we always say, Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, this also b'dibur echad. Lo taneh berecha et Shaker, Lo taneh berecha et Shav. One of them is in Parashat Yitro, in the Ten Commandments that we're going to read in Shavuot, and one of them is going to be in Vayetchanan. The one in Vayetchanan is lo ta'aneh b'recha et shav. The one in Yitro is lo ta'aneh b'recha et shaker. So therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said it in one. That's what it means. That's what it means. It's one thing. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braita, Zachor v'Shamor nemru, Rabbi Divurecha nemru, ma she'en yachol ha'peh ledaber, ma she'en hakol, right? She'aozen yachol lishma. Meaning the peh you cannot say two things in once, right? You cannot say it. Sometimes you could mean it, right? Some people have the kavanah of saying one thing and then they say something else. But right, we're talking about now also the other concept of that the ozen cannot hear. Meaning, even if miraculously you were able to say two things in once, I cannot hear two things in once. Right? So he comes and he says, but here it's the exact same thing that happened with Zachor v'Shamor, happened with Lotisa, right? Et Shemash, Lotara b'recha et Shaker, v'Lotara b'recha et Shav. Right? So it's Kilu Lotara b'recha ed, all of a sudden you heard in one shot, Shaker and Shav in 1 second. Right? In the exact same thing. What? No, it's not, you're not making a thing. Bishlema Hatam says the Gemara. The Gemara. That's what we sing in Lechadodi. That's exactly what we just said. Fine, but that's what we say. That's exactly what the Gemara say. Yeah. So he says like this. Bishlemahatam. I understand over there the Zachor v'Shamor is going to be b'dibur chanemru k'deravada barava, just like Ravada Barava. The Amar Ravada Barava says Ravada Barava. Nashim chayavo b'kiddush hayom. Nashim are going to be obligated in kiddush of Shabbat var Torah. The Amar Krav, as the pasuk says, Zachor et yom Shabbat lekadasho, v'Shamor lekadasho. Meaning it is. Usually women are not obligated in the mitzvot to say Shazman Grama. Here, since Zachor and Shamor were written, were said, B'dibur echad, women are obligated in Kiddush Midoraita. Why? Shamor are the negative commandments. Women for sure are obligated in the negative commandments of Shabbat. They cannot be Mechalel Shabbat. But since Shamor and Zachor were B'dibur echad, since she's chayevet in Shamor, she's chayevet in the Zachor. What's the Zachor? The Kiddush, even though it's a positive commandment and it has Zman Grama. So therefore, women are obligated Mina Torah and Kiddush because of the Zachor v'Shamor. Kol sheyeshno b'shmira, yeshno b'zichira. As long as you're chayav in Shomer, yeah, of course, 100%. She has to do Kiddush for sure. V'hani nashe hol v'tzinu b'shmira, it do not mean b'zichira. Elahacha, but here, lema yichata mibayla, meaning this. I understand the Zachor v'Shamor, I needed to know the halacha. Why did I need to know the halacha? For women. Lo taneh b'lecha et shav, or lo taneh b'lecha et shaker, right? Why do I have to know that it's b'dibur echad? So he says, Ela, but rather, shekshem sheloke al shav, kach loke al shaker. Meaning, we know that you're going to get lashes for a Shevuot shav. So too, you're going to get lashes, right, for Shevuot sheker. So says the Gemara, Klapelaya, what is the case exactly? So he says like this, Ela ema, keshem sheloke al sheker, so too he's going to be loke nami al shav. Meaning, just like you're going to be loke, you're going to get lashes on Shevuot sheker. So for example, you went and you said you're going to do a certain action, and then you were over on this, you get lashes. So too you're going to be loke on Shevuot shav, even though there's no action. Is there an action on Shevuot shav? Shevuah is not an action. It's your mouth. Is there an action by Shevuot shav? Guys, if you're paying attention to that, you're not going to pay attention to this. Right? One more time. Right? Shevuot shav ze ala avar. Ani kvar asiti ta maaseh. If it's on the past, what action is there that I say a Shevuah, right? That I didn't do this yesterday. There was no action now. So therefore, what we're learning is that just like you get lashes on Shevuot sheker, it's on the atid, and I did do an action, you're going to get lashes on the Shevuot shav, even though there's no action. That's why it was b'dibur echad that I had to know that both of them are together. So it says the Gemara, pshita, obviously. So he says, no. Mao the tema, I would have thought to say, Kedamale Rav Papa Labaye, just like Rav Papa said to Abaye, maybe it says lo yinakeh klal, right? Which means the kavanat of the pasuk is that there's no nikayon and kapara for a chet of Shevuot shav, and even malkut is not going to help. So Kamash Malan comes to teach you it does actually help malkut, that a person will get, right? Also betin shelmata, they'll come and they'll give malkut, and therefore it's not going to be lo yinakeh Kiddush Hanila, and then there's going to be also another answer Vibaitema that we'll also do Bezat